My wife and I dreamed of buying a house. Years of work, strict budgeting, giving up vacations, and finally, we had saved up the amount we needed. Then my best friend said, "Sorry, brother, but the money is mine now." He thought I would just swallow it. But I didn't give him the chance. It was supposed to be the beginning of our new life. Sarah and I had spent 5 years living in a cramped one-bedroom apartment, saving every penny we could. We'd skip dinners out, cancel streaming subscriptions, and I'd even picked up weekend shifts at a local real estate office to supplement my finance job. Sarah worked double shifts as a nurse, coming home with dark circles under her eyes but never complaining. We had a dream, and we were willing to sacrifice everything for it. Kevin had been there through it all. He'd bring us takeout on the nights when Sarah worked late, saying we needed to keep our strength up. He'd listen to our plans about the house we wanted to buy, offering suggestions about neighborhoods and school districts. Sometimes he'd even help me with those weekend shifts, showing properties to clients when I was too exhausted to drive. "You're going to make it," he'd say, clapping me on the shoulder. "And when you do, I'll help you find the perfect place." No commission, that's what brothers are for. I'd known Kevin since we were kids throwing rocks at cans in his backyard. We went to the same schools, played on the same teams, even dated the same girl in high school, though neither of us ended up with her. When I met Sarah in college, Kevin was my best man at the wedding. In our photos, he's standing next to me, grinning widely, his arm around my shoulder like it had been 1,000 times before. We both ended up in real estate after graduation, me in financing, him in sales. It seemed perfect. We'd help each other climb the ladder, sharing contacts and insider knowledge. Kevin had a gift for sales, people trusted him instantly. He had this way of looking at you like you were the only person in the room, like your problems were his problems. That's probably why I never saw it coming. It started the day we hit our savings goal. Sarah and I had been tracking every dollar in a spreadsheet, watching the numbers climb slowly toward our target, $80,000 for a down payment. When we finally made it, Sarah cried. I took a picture of the spreadsheet and sent it to Kevin. He called me immediately. "Bro, this is it. I've got something perfect for you. You're not going to believe the timing." The property he described sounded too good to be true, a 3-bedroom colonial in a great school district, well under market value. The catch? The owner was a private investor who'd bought several properties in foreclosure. He wanted to offload them quickly and would only deal in cash, with payment up front. It's not exactly conventional, Kevin admitted, but that's why the price is so low. The guy's trying to avoid realtor fees and lengthy closing processes. I've done deals with him before, totally legitimate, just unconventional. I hesitated. It seemed risky, but Kevin had been in the business longer than I had. He knew the market, knew the players. And hadn't he always looked out for us? "Think about it," he said. "This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. But you need to move fast. He's got other interested buyers." Sarah was more cautious. "Shouldn't we at least see the house first?" "It's being renovated," Kevin explained. "But I've got pictures and the inspection report. Everything's solid. You just need to trust me on this one." Trust. It's amazing how that word can echo in your mind later, taunting you with your own naivety. We transferred the money to Kevin's account on a Tuesday morning. He said he'd handle everything, the paperwork, the closing, all of it. "By this time next week, you'll have the keys to your dream home." The first few days, everything seemed normal. Kevin sent updates about paperwork being processed, renovations being completed. But when Sarah asked about scheduling a walkthrough, his responses became vague. "The workers are still in there. The owner's out of town. Let's give it another day or two." Then the delays started. The owner was suddenly unavailable. There were unexpected issues with the title. Kevin's messages became shorter, less frequent. When I called his office, his assistant said he was always in meetings. The knot in my stomach grew tighter with each passing day. I started having trouble sleeping, lying awake at night running calculations in my head. $80,000. Our entire future, sitting in someone else's account. After 2 weeks of increasingly desperate attempts to reach him, I finally cornered Kevin outside his favorite coffee shop. He was dressed sharper than usual, with a new watch glinting on his wrist. "Where's our money, Kevin?" He took a sip of his coffee, completely calm. "Look, sometimes deals fall through. It's just business." "What are you talking about? What deal? Where's the house? Where's the seller?" "There is no house." He said it so casually, like he was commenting on the weather. "There never was." I felt the world tilt sideways. "What? Come on, Mark. You're in finance. You should know better than to transfer money without proper documentation." He smiled, that same trustworthy smile that had convinced countless clients to sign on the dotted line. "Consider it an expensive lesson in due diligence. That money, that was everything we had." "Was," he emphasized. "Now it's my capital investment. I've got plans for it, plans that'll double or triple the return. Maybe in a few years, if you ask nicely, I'll give you a piece of the profits." I lunged for him, but he stepped back, still smiling. "Careful now. Assault charges won't help you get your money back. Besides, what can you really do? No contract, no proof of our arrangement. Just a wire transfer to a friend, a gift, as far as anyone can prove." He started to walk away, then turned back. "I am sorry, in a way. But this is how the real world works. The smart people take, and the nice people." He shrugged. "They make great targets." I watched him leave, my hands shaking with rage. Sarah would be devastated. Our dreams, our sacrifices, all of it gone because I trusted the wrong person. But as I stood there, something cold and calculating began to replace the anger in my chest. Kevin thought he had won. He thought I would do what nice people always do, accept the loss and move on. He had no idea what he'd just started. The first thing I did was go home and tell Sarah everything. She didn't cry, didn't scream. She just sat at our kitchen table, hands folded in her lap, and asked, "What are we going to do?" Not, "How could he," or, "Why us?" Just, "What are we going to do?" That's why I married her. Sarah was always stronger than me. "We're going to destroy him," I said. "But we're going to be smart about it." I spent that night making a list of everything I knew about Kevin. 15 years of friendship gives you a lot of ammunition, if you know how to use it. I knew his habits, his weaknesses, his secrets, and most importantly, I knew how his mind worked. Kevin wasn't just greedy, he was ambitious. He wouldn't sit on the money. He'd want to multiply it, to prove he was as clever as he thought he was. And that's where he'd be vulnerable. I started with his social media. Kevin loved to showcase his success, real or imagined. Sure enough, 2 days after our confrontation, he posted about a major investment opportunity in luxury condos. A quick check of local real estate listings led me to a high-end development downtown. A few calls to former colleagues confirmed it. Kevin had put a deposit on a premium unit, planning to flip it for a quick profit. But Kevin had made a crucial mistake. In his rush to invest the money, he'd cut corners on the paperwork. The sale hadn't been properly registered yet, and the developer was notoriously paranoid about scandal. I created an anonymous email account and sent a carefully worded message to the development company's compliance department. I didn't accuse Kevin of anything directly, that would have seemed suspicious. Instead, I asked innocent questions about their buyer verification process, mentioning that I'd heard concerns about potential money laundering in luxury real estate. 3 days later, the development company's lawyers began an internal review. A week after that, they canceled Kevin's purchase agreement. He lost his deposit, $20,000, gone just like that. But I was just getting started. Kevin had always been careful about his professional reputation. Image was everything in real estate. He cultivated relationships with every major agency and developer in the city, positioning himself as the go-to agent for luxury properties. I began feeding information to his network. Not accusations, those could be denied. Instead, I shared public records of his failed deals, hints about financial irregularities, suggestions that he might be under investigation. In the high-end real estate market, even a whisper of impropriety is enough to make people nervous. One by one, his contacts began to distance themselves. Calls went unreturned. Listings were given to other agents. Kevin's social media posts became increasingly desperate, full of forced optimism and vague promises about exciting opportunities. Meanwhile, I was tracking his financial movements. Working in finance had taught me how to read between the lines of public records. Kevin was burning through cash fast. The failed condo deal had hurt him more than I'd expected. He'd borrowed money for the deposit, counting on the flip to cover his debts. That's when I found my perfect weapon. 2 years ago, Kevin had borrowed a significant amount from Marcus Wheeler, a private lender known for his aggressive collection methods. The loan was due in 6 months, and Kevin had been counting on our money to help pay it off. I met Marcus for coffee. He was exactly what I expected: expensive suit, cold eyes, the kind of smile that never reaches above the lips. "Mr. Wheeler," I said, "I believe we have a mutual acquaintance." The conversation was brief. I shared what I knew about Kevin's financial situation, his failed investments, his mounting debts. Marcus listened silently, occasionally making notes on his phone. "Thank you for bringing this to my attention," he said finally. "I'll be sure to prioritize Mr. Anderson's account." 2 days later, Kevin's Audi disappeared from his parking spot. The next week, a moving truck showed up at his condo. I watched from across the street as he loaded boxes into a rented SUV, his movements frantic, constantly looking over his shoulder. That evening, I received a text from an unknown number: "You won. I'm done. I'm leaving town." I didn't respond. Instead, I went home to Sarah and showed her the text. "Do you feel better?" she asked. I thought about it. The satisfaction I'd expected wasn't there. Instead, I felt empty. Kevin was ruined, yes, but our money was still gone. Our dream house was still out of reach. "No," I admitted. "I don't feel better." Sarah took my hand. "Then maybe it's time to stop. We can start over. Save again. Build something new." I nodded, but something inside me wasn't convinced. The cold, calculating part of my brain that had orchestrated Kevin's downfall wasn't satisfied. It wanted more. The next morning, I opened my laptop and began typing. The story of Kevin's fraud needed to be shared. Not for revenge anymore, but as a warning to others. There were more Kevins out there, wearing trustworthy smiles and offering deals too good to be true. And sometimes, the nice people need to learn how to bite back. 3 months after Kevin left town, I received another message. This one came through LinkedIn, from a name I didn't recognize. "I heard what happened with Kevin Anderson. I need your help." The sender was a woman named Rachel Martinez. She'd invested with Kevin 2 years ago, before our incident. Like us, she'd trusted him with her savings. Like us, she'd lost everything. "He's in Phoenix now," she wrote. "Still in real estate. Still running the same scam." I stared at the message for a long time. Sarah was right, we were rebuilding. I'd taken a promotion at work, and she'd moved to a better-paying hospital. Our new savings account was slowly growing. We were healing. But Kevin wasn't. He'd just found new victims. I wrote back to Rachel, "Tell me everything. Over the next few weeks, she shared documents, recordings, bank statements. Kevin had gotten smarter about covering his tracks, but his basic scheme remained the same. He'd build trust, offer an incredible deal, then disappear with the money. He'd already convinced 3 families to invest in a fictional development project. I knew I should forward everything to the FBI's Financial Crimes Division. That would have been the right thing to do. The legal thing. Instead, I spent a week building a dossier. Every transaction, every lie, every victim. I created a website, anonymous, untraceable, and uploaded all of it. Then I sent the link to every real estate agency, investment firm, and development company in Phoenix. 2 days later, Kevin's Arizona real estate license was suspended pending investigation. This time, when the satisfaction didn't come, I understood why. It wasn't about hurting Kevin anymore. It was about stopping him. And I hadn't done enough. I contacted Rachel again. "Are you willing to go public?" She was. So were 2 other victims she knew. Within a month, we had a support group of 6 people, all with similar stories. We hired a lawyer, filed complaints with regulatory agencies, shared our stories with local news. Kevin disappeared again, but this time there was nowhere left to hide. His name and face were toxic in the real estate industry from coast to coast. The last I heard, he was working at a car dealership in Nevada under his mother's maiden name. Sarah noticed the change in me as the weeks went by. The anger that had driven me was fading, replaced by something else. Purpose, maybe. Or understanding. "You're different," she said one night as we sat on our apartment balcony, watching the sunset. "Better or worse?" She thought about it. "Just different. You used to believe the best in people. Now you look for the cracks." She was right. I'd lost something in destroying Kevin, not just money, but a kind of innocence. The ability to trust completely, to believe in the goodness of others without question. But I'd gained something too. Strength, maybe. Or wisdom. The knowledge that nice people don't have to be victims. That sometimes the most powerful weapon isn't violence or money, but the truth. Our savings account hit $20,000 last week. A quarter of what we lost, but it's a start. We're looking at houses again, smaller ones, further from the city. Sarah says she likes them better anyway, more character, she calls it. Yesterday, I drove past Kevin's old office building. There's a new real estate agency there now, with bright signs promising honest deals, real results. I wondered if they meant it, or if it was just another trustworthy smile hiding sharp teeth. Then I remembered something my father used to say, "Trust, but verify." He was talking about used cars, but the principle applies to everything. Even best friends. Especially best friends. I still think about Kevin sometimes, about the boy who threw rocks at cans and stood beside me at my wedding. I wonder when he changed, or if he was always what he became. I wonder if he thinks about me too, about the nice guy who turned out to have teeth of his own. But mostly, I think about the others out there, the Rachels and Sarahs, the people with dreams and trust and savings accounts. Some of them will meet their own Kevins. Some of them will lose everything. So I keep the website up. I add new stories as I find them, new warnings, new red flags to watch for. It's not much, but maybe it'll help someone spot the cracks in a trustworthy smile before it's too late. Sarah and I will get our house eventually. It won't be the one we dreamed of, but dreams change. We've learned that the hard way. And Kevin? Last week, someone sent me a photo of him at his new job, standing next to a used Honda with that same winning smile. He looks older, tired around the eyes. But he's still selling, still convincing people to trust him. I thought about sending the photo to his new employer. It would be easy, one more push to knock him down again. But I didn't. Some people never change. But I have. And that's revenge enough.